We see the instant pivot into Ampharos, looking to bait out any potential ground type. In examples like this, where the opponent doesn't send out a ground type, we've got that Hail Mary Zap Cannon looking to take back switch. The opponent fire off the Rage Fish, which doesn't get the job done. Does the opponent respect the damage? Well, you're going to have to watch the video to find out. So welcome back to the channel. Buckle up, because today is going to be one hell of a roller coaster of emotions, as we're going to have nukes going off left, right and centre. Today we get the absolute pleasure of shoutcasting one of my favourite battlers, the highly talented Turbo T612. If you've been watching my channel for a while now, you'll know that every time we have the Master League Premier Cup around, Turbo T612 brings us some insane shoutcast with some very spicy shadow Pokemon, and today is no different. Today's team, of course, is going to be an ABB team, but this particular strategy I like to call It's a Trap. We're going to be using Ampharos, looking to bait out any potential ground type, and we're running Trailblaze that will in turn hit back for super effective, or in the common Rhyperior's case, a double super effective. This in turn will clear the path for Magnezone to go absolutely ham in the back. This season in the Master League Premier Cup, the most common and arguably the strongest core is going to be Florges plus a water type. Most commonly Gliscopod, sometimes Gyarados, and you know what's going to shut that core down? The mighty Shadow Magnezone. Of course, Rhyperior is no joke, it is very common. So to cover the backline's vulnerability to that top tier threat, we've got Shadow Gyarados running Waterfall. You've heard the team, you've heard how it's supposed to work. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, we see Florges. This thing is so bloody common. It is on like 99% of teams. We see the instant pivot into Ampharos, looking to bait out any potential ground type. And right on cue, out comes Rhyperior. Trailblaze forces us an early shield advantage, and the opponent's even going to dump energy. Down goes Ampharos. Gyarados can now come in. These waterfalls are double super effective and going to completely tear through Rhyperior. We're going to go for the one shield, look for that full waterfall farm down, which we're able to get. Back out comes Florges, one waterfall and the Aqua Tail for optimal fast move time, and Aqua Tail does some decent chip damage, and we see the pivot into Magnezone. I told you in the intro the most common core is Florges plus a water type. Out comes Gyarados, we full send the wild charge, nuking the opponent through the protect shield. Magnezone fires off the mirror shot, forcing the opponent's final protect shield, and this game is signed, sealed and delivered. The opponent fire off the Trailblaze, which simply doesn't get the job done. Turbo just going to shield up the incoming Trailblaze. We've got that wild charge locked and loaded, and just like that, we're off to a very quick 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Goodra in the lead, a very big core breaker for the team. We're going to say switch into Ampharos. On this moveset, we are fully walled. Of course, the opponent doesn't know our moveset. Brutal Swing would hit for neutral. We could even run Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse is a legacy move, and I think Master League Premier Cup's probably one of the only formats where it's got any play whatsoever. Out comes Florges, despite landing the Zap Cannon, which is insanely hard. We're not able to flip switch. Turbo T going to send up Magnezone. Take this opportunity to load up on energy. The opponent fire off the Trailblaze, which doesn't do much damage. Out comes Goodra. We're going to fire off the Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot also doesn't do much of anything. Wild Charge is resisted, but would do objectively more this time. We fire off the Wild Charge, getting them into the yellow health range. We pivot back out into Gyarados, and unfortunately the opponent sends out their own Gyarados. But this isn't a great spot for us, as our waterfalls are resisting and their Dragon Breaths are hitting for neutral. The opponent opts to shield the first crunch and then go for an Aqua Tail bait, which we show little respect for, and potentially we're back in the game. Turbo tanks the next Aqua Tail, putting all his hopes and dreams on Magnezone. Magnezone gets that full Volt Switch farm down. Back out comes Goodra. We fire off the Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Can we reach the Wild Charge? Who was worried? I'll be honest, I was when I saw Gyarados, but Turbo T once again gets the job done and pulls off a very big dub despite awful alignment. What a win. Heading into the next battle. Yet another Florges. That is 3 for 3. We've only played 3 battles, and we've managed to see one on every single team. Once again, we bait out Rhyperior. This opponent recognises, despite Trailblaze being double super effective, one is survivable. Breaking Swipe removes us from the field of play. This mid-game matchup was so quick that we're fully waiting out our timer, knowing Gyarados will be switch locked when Florges returns. You can see Turbo looking to pivot out, but timer simply isn't up. We actually bank the Aqua Tail, make the pivot into Magnezone, and it's interesting that the opponent opts to dump energy. This is almost certainly going to be yet another Florges plus Water Core. Turbo T are recognising that Magnezone is going to be very good in the back. Opts to shield up the Trailblaze, but they're going to fire off the Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. Once again, we're going for the mirror shot. Despite this being super effective, it is kind of a bait, as wild charge would do more. Turbo T then banks his energy, pivots back into Gyarados, catches the Moonblast, and out comes the opposing water type. We fire off the Crunch, doesn't do too much damage. The opponent is going to get a very nice waterfall farm down. Magnezone hits the field of play, gonna farm up, fire off the mirror shot. From this range, mirror shot will move in Gyarados from the field of play. We're doubled up, and once again, Magnezone is going to clean up. Turbo T, you absolute monster. This battler is so good and such fun to shoutcast. Heading into the next battle, we see the Gyarados mirror. We pivot into Ampharos, and this opponent opts to stay in before finally sending out Rhyperior. And once again, the trap has worked. This team just keeps baiting out these Rhyperiors, clearing the path for Magnezone, and Magnezone just continues to clean up. Oof, look at the bulk on Rhyperior. Even a boosted trailblaze doesn't get the job done. We send back out Gyarados. Gyarados going to go for the one shield, waterfall farm down, and Florges re-enters the arena. Gyarados can survive any one move. The opponent going to full send the Moonblast. The opponent then goes for the combo play. Turbo T saves energy, sends out Magnezone. We tank the Aqua Tail. Gyarados, nothing but free farm. Magnezone going to get the full Volt Switch farm down. Back out comes Florges. Magnezone, once again, primed to sweep. The first mirror shot goes unshielded. We reach the next mirror shot, and that is game over. We've got an Aqua Tail banked on Gyarados. The opponent recognises there's nothing they can do, and they tank the move, with once again Turbo T emerging victorious. Heading into the next battle, we see Gliscopod in the lead. We say switch into Ampharos, baiting out the ice table. Potentially we can force a shield here, as Ampharos does have access to Focus Blast. Not that we're running it, but the opponent does not know that. We full send the Zap Cannon, looking to guarantee big damage or force that shield. We're able to obtain ourselves a shield advantage, and Gyarados re-enters the arena. The opponent fire off the Avalanche. Avalanche rocks us below half health. Turbo gonna return fire with the Aqua Tail. This ice table is so thick. Aqua Tail actually isn't lethal. We're able to waterfall farm down afterwards. We pivot into Magnezone, and once again we see Florges plus Water Core. Magnezone with two shields to hide behind, looking primed to sweep. The opponent go for the Trailblaze bait, and Turbo shows a little respect. Magnezone fires off the mirror shot goes unshielded and rocks them below half health. Turbo with two shields to hide behind, finally going to invest one here. Florges continues to stay, and we fire off the mirror shot removes Florges from the field of play. Back out comes Gliscopod. Turbo T farms up to the double wild charge, and this game is over. The opponent tanked the move, recognising baiting was their only win con. We full send the wild charge, pick up that huge one shot, and Turbo T goes a perfect 5-0. Heading into the next battle, we see Gyarados into Golden Go on Waterfall. More of a neutral matchup. On Dragon Breath, not the best. But despite this, we are going to say switch into Ampharos, checking for that ground type. The opponent stay in, fire off the Shadow Ball. Turbo T looking to return fire with that Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon forces our shield back. The opponent completely tearing through us with these Astonishes. Astonish, probably not the move I expected to see. I'd expect most to be running Hex this season, but Astonish is certainly more oppressive. Currently, it looks like Golden Go is completely running through our team, but potentially as the opponent stayed in, they have no answer for an electric type, and Magnezone with a shield might just be able to clean up. Turbo T thinking that is his win con. It's going to be Magnezone versus the world. Magnezone comes in, gets that Volt Switch farm down, out comes Dragonite. If you're going to send Dragonite into a Magnezone with no shields to hide behind, I'm calling a water type in the back. Turbo T full sends the wild charge very nearly picks up the one hit KO. Turbo T going to invest to protect shield, blocking up the Dragon Claw bait, but that bait will not be saving this opponent's fate. Out comes Gyarados straight in and straight out, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Primarina in the lead position. Once again, say switching into Ampharos, and we see an opposing Magnezone hit the field of play. Oh man, if only we had Focus Blast. Not that I think you'd be able to land it in this battle, as Magnezone probably shields this charge move. We fire off the Trailblaze. No, which actually gets called. If the opponent go for another Mirror Shot bait here, I think Zap Cannon will certainly pick up the knockout. The opponent go for that Mirror Shot bait. We full send the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon does pick up the knockout. Ampharos is the superior electric type. I'm not sure that's entirely true, as I think Magnezone has been our MVP. Speaking of MVP, it is Magnezone time once again. Magnezone hits the field of play, gonna shield up the Hydro Cannon. The opponent doesn't even show their third, and we take yet another very quick dub. In the next battle, we see Dragonite in the lead. We're gonna say switch into Ampharos. The opponent going to stay in, looking for some chip damage. Dragon Claw does almost all of our HP. Turbo T recognises he won't reach the Zap Cannon and settles for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze goes unshielded and that does absolutely nothing. Turbo T keeps pulling dubs off from almost impossible spots, but we are so far behind in this battle. We send out Magnezone, correctly shield up the superpower, and out comes Metagross. This is very, very playable for Magnezone. Turbo T once again going to full send the Wild Charge right off the bat, doing almost all their HP. We see the pivot into Gyarados, looking to absorb the energy. Meteor Mash doesn't do much of anything. Gyarados does get that full waterfall farm down, and the opponent sends out their own Gyarados. Gyarados going to greet the opposing Gyarados with the Crunch. Crunch goes unshielded, but the opponent's going to get a massive Dragon Breath farm down. Turbo T actually able to reach the part on Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail does force a shield, but this is still a very tough spot to be in. The opponent makes a huge mistake, instant throw on the charge move, giving us a free Volt Switch. Once again, the opponent instant throw. Magnezone sneaking fast moves left, right, and centre. Back out comes Dragonite, and it's going to be a race. I don't think they've got a charge move. I think this one again is going to be a dub. Holy cow. Magnezone once again putting off an incredible sweep, and we take that game. Oof. Turbo T on fire. Heading into the next battle. We see the ice table in the lead. We're going to save switch into Ampharos. This opponent more than happy to stay in. They do eventually pivot into Goodra. Goodra going to fully wall this energy, but Zap Cannon, a very hard hitting move, and still does a solid chunk. Ampharos going to fire off the Trailblaze. Trailblaze once again is resisted, but does obtain us a shield advantage here in the mid-game matchup. It's pretty mad that Ampharos, with his measly stat product, able to force a shield off Goodra on a moveset where we're fully walled. Turbo T sent out Gyarados just to absorb a double super effective Thunder Punch, once again putting all his hopes and dreams onto Magnezone. The opponent full sent a Draco there, holy cow. The opponent also running a nuke. Back out comes the ice table. Magnezone gonna fire off the Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot is super effective, but this thing is so thick. Turbo T recognising Mirror Shot simply will not get the job done. Full sends a Wild Charge, picking up the knockout, and he's looking to reset his debuff. Out comes an opposing Waterfall Gary. Can we win this game? The opponent's going to waterfall farm us down, so the question will be, can we Volt Switch farm them down before they reach 2 moves? Even if we do that, I think we're going to die to the Dragon Breaths. Magnezone finally going to unleash a charge move, firing off the Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot forces Goodra's final Protect Shield, and unfortunately we do die to the resisted Dragon Breaths, but once again a very valiant effort heading into the next battle. We see a commanding lead, but despite this we are going to pivot out into Ampharos, and this is exactly why you always need to stick to the script and the strategy of checking for a ground type, as we do bait out Excadrill, which of course would absolutely feast on Magnezone. Back in the early seasons, Excadrill was an absolute monster in this format. Mudshot then generated 4.5 EPT and Rockslide also did more damage. Nowadays, Excadrill does opt for Mud Slap, meaning Gyarados is very advantageous. Turbo T goes to the one shield, full waterfall farm down, and out comes Garchomp. This opponent has not one, but 2 ground types. It's kind of crazy that despite us running double electric and the opponent running double ground, I like the position Turbo's in. He even correctly shields up the Outrage, which is a huge protect shield, 1 waterfall and the next Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail goes unshielded. We bank our energy, see the pivot into Magnezone, and I love this play. Pivot instantly means we're going to be able to outpace the Wild Charge before the opponent pick up that one-hit KO with the Earthquake. Wild Charge forces the opponent's final protect shield. They're unable to overfarm or will reach another Wild Charge. Back out comes Gyarados. We fire off the Crunch. Is Crunch enough to knock out? No, it's not, but we're able to waterfall farm down before the Meteor Mash is reached. Double electric beats double ground. You heard it here first. What a win. Heading into the next battle. Oh, hello, Rhyperior. Nice to see you. To see you, nice trainer. Why on earth are you staying in? This is the easiest one shield and full farm down of Turbo's GBL career. The opponent saves their Rhyperior on 1 HP and a Dream and send out Primarina. We send out Magnezone. Magnezone goes straight for the Wild Charge, cleanly picking up the one shot. Rhyperior actually gets Volt Switch farm down. That's just how low they are. Out comes Waterfall Gary. Oh, trainer, why did you not pivot out? I'm so confused. We're on Waterfall. Just send out your own Waterfall Gary. I'm not entirely sure why the opponent played this match, how they did. The opponent fire off the Aqua Tail, recognise they're going to get Volt Switch farm down, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Primarina in the lead. We're going to say switch into Ampharos, this time baiting out Annihilate. When you don't bait out the ground type, we've got that Hail Mary Zap Cannon. The opponent going to fire off the Rage Fist, which simply does not get the job done. We're full sending. Does the opponent respect the damage? Boo. Zap Cannon, unfortunately, it does go shielded. Annihilate, nowhere near as bulky as some of the other Pokemon in this meta, so I'd have loved to have seen if Zap Cannon picked up a clean one-shot. We send out Gyarados, tank the Rage Fist, fire off the Aqua Tail, removing them from the field of play. We see the pivot into Magnezone, and once again Magnezone completely core breaking the opponent. We go straight for the Wild Charge right off the bat. Wild Charge goes unshielded. Magnezone once again primed to sweep. We're going to shield up the inevitable Meteor Mash bait, but trust me trainer, that bait will not be saving your fate. Back out comes Primarina. Magnezone fires off one further Wild Charge, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield, but I've got news for you trainer, we're doubled up. The next Wild Charge cleanly picks up the one shot and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Purified Dragonite in the lead. Absolute sacrilege. Come on, Turbo. Don't lose to a Purified Pokemon. We're going to say switch into Ampharos. We've already discovered that this matchup is atrocious for us. Please give us a shield, trainer. Please shield. No, again, we're sitting in such a tough spot. Turbo T going to fully wait out his timer before sending out the UFO. The UFO hits the field of play. We're going to respect a potential superpower. The opponent go for the Dragon Claw bait, and things are going from bad to worse. Turbo T going to fire off the Mirror Shot, looking to move Dragonite from the field of play. The opponent invests that Protect Shield. We then pivot out into Gyarados. Gyarados can tank any one move. The opponent fire off the Dragon Claw and then send out their own Gyarados. Our Gyarados going to fire off the Crunch, but once again we're just going to get farmed down. The opponent is committing to that full Dragon Breath farm down, and it is Magnezone versus the world. We even get denied coming in. Come on game, don't work like this. Why does the game screw us when we really need it not to? If that Volt Switch knocks out, which I believe it does, oh man, that is absolute BS. They wouldn't have reached that departing move, and unfortunately we are going to take a loss, but I'm going to call that game not working as intended. I'm definitely a trainer that suffers with tilt. I've taken a loss like that previous battle, losing due to game state issues. I'd be very, very tilted. Let's see if Turbo manages his tilt better than I do. We're off to a good start as we see a fantastic lead. Waterfall Gary into Skeledirge. The opponent say switches into Florges and Magnezone hits the field of play. The opponent desperate to realign. Turbo T calls the Trailblaze and he's going to force both Protect Shields or straight up keep alignment. The opponent goes all in on Florges, desperate to realign. The opponent looking for that Fairy Wind farm down. Magnezone refuses to die. Wins the 0-2 shield. Holy cow. And it's Primarina in the back. We send out Ampharos. The opponent then pivots back out into Skeledirge. High trainer. Gyarados enters the arena. Goes straight for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail with the waterfalls. We'll be moving them from the field of play. The opponent recognises there's nothing they could do and they concede the match. And we bounce back in emphatic fashion. Heading into the next battle. We see Dragonite in the lead. This Dragonite lead has caused us many problems, but thankfully we say switch into Ampharos. The opponent doesn't opt to stay in. They actually send out their ground types. The team back working as intended. Magnezone going to get a massive Mud Slap farm down, but in return Gyarados going to get a nice Waterfall farm down. Avalanche will hit hard, but potentially this is just an Icicle Sphere. The opponent is still an Avalanche, which means they're only going to reach one move. Back out comes Dragonite. Dragonite going to opt to dump energy. Dragon Claw removes us from the field of play, and once again we see Magnezone versus the world. The opponent throws at very poor timing, giving us a free Volt Switch, but they do go for the Dragon Claw bait. They then send out Gyarados. We are full sending, trying to nuke the opponent through 2 Protect Shields. Wild Charge picks up that one hit KO, and now fishing for some attack drops. Mirror Shot forces Dragonite's first Protect Shield. Magnezone going to go straight for the next Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Can the opponent reach the double move? No, they cannot. Magnezone, you absolute monster. And once again, Turbo T picks up a crazy dub. My gosh, Turbo T is absolutely popping off today. As if that double electric team wasn't crazy enough, we've now got some bonus battles with Archen. Is Archen any good? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. For this bonus set of battles, once again, we're going to run an ABB team. Archen in the lead with double water in the back. Gyarados this time, opting for Dragon Breath. Aqua Tail and Crunch again, with Feraligatr running its standard moveset of Shadow Claw, Hydro Cannon, Ice Beam. Turbo C saw an awful lead, and he's going to look to realign his Pokemon, but the issue here is these Dragon Breaths are double resisted, and despite Florges being in the red, we're not going to be able to farm down, but the opponent actually does concede switch advantage, send out Metagross, Turbo T, commits to their crunch, guaranteeing big damage or that protect shield. We force that protect shield, we've got the correct alignment, and Feraligatr hits the field of play. Turbo T 612 correctly shields up the Earthquake. The opponent continues to stay in, so Turbo going to take the initiative, fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon forces the opponent's final protect shield. Earthquake will do a lot, but is survivable. We then bank the Hydro Cannon, see the pivot into Archen. Archen gonna fire off the Dragon Claw. Have you ever seen Bullet Punch do so much damage? The opponent then sends out Rhyperior. These Mud Slaps are resisted, or at least on paper. They're single resistors, flying double resist ground, and Rock takes super effective. Unfortunately, the opponent is going to leave with a charge move. Feraligatr unfortunately won't win this charge attack priority, and unfortunately Archen off to a 0-1 start. But GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, this time we see Rhyperior in the lead position. We're going to utilise this time Feraligatr on the save switch, and out comes Goodra. Turbo T full sends the Ice Beam. Ice Beam sneaks through 2 protect shields and instantly rocks them below half health. We see the instant shield deployed, correctly shielding up the Thunder Punch. Feraligatr is just such a menace in all 3 leagues. The Shadow Claws have put them in a range where even a Hydro Cannon will pick up the knockout. The opponent then look for the Dragon Breath farm down. Feraligatr grinning away, reaches the departing Hydro Cannon and forces both protect shields off the opponent here in the mid-game matchup. Turbo T sends out Archen, and we're going to see how bulky it is. Oh my gosh, that Thunder Punch did like 70%. We then snipe with Gyarados, and unfortunately it's Florges in the back. If we're on Waterfall, I'd say we're in an alright position. However, non-stab, double resisted Dragon Breath is going to make this an uphill battle. Turbo T looks to call the Trailblaze bait, which is a great call for us. We're back in the game. Turbo T going to shield up the boosted Trailblaze. Can we Dragon Breath him into a range with this Aqua Tail's lethal? I don't think this is quite lethal, but we can potentially catch on Archen, and we do exactly that. Archen going to be used as the third shield, potentially its best use. Spoiler alert, Turbo T said Archen is essentially about as good as Darumaka was in the Great League. If you saw that showcase, it was dreadful. Aqua Tail double super effective on Rhyperior, but unfortunately isn't enough to one-shot, and we take yet another loss, heading into the next battle. I would say another tough lead, but I'm not entirely sure leading Archen what lead would actually be good for us. We say switch into Gyarados, baiting out Goodra. Goodra going to be greeted with the crunch. Of course, Thunder Punch double super effective, so Turbo T going to be forced to put a protect shield if he wants to flip switch. This is just an Aqua Tail, which will be survivable, and Gyarados is going to get us to realign. Turbo T actually stops tapping, ensuring he leaves minimal farm for whatever should come out. The opponent actually send out Florges. Florges going to be greeted with the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail not going to do too much, as Florges is one bulky boy. We send out Archen. Back out comes Metagross, and Feraligatr hits the field of play. Usually this would be a great matchup, but down a shield could get somewhat dicey. Or not, as the opponent actually just completely sacrificing Metagross, but all the hopes and dreams on Florges. We correctly shot the Earthquake, going to get a massive Shadow Claw farm down. Back out comes Florges. Florges instantly greeted with the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon forces that first protect shield. They go straight for a Trailblaze. Trailblaze is super effective, but doesn't get stabbed, doesn't get the job done. We bank the Hydro Cannon for the road, see the pivot into Archen. Archen reaches the Ancient Power. Ancient Power actually knocks out Archen. Is the best Pokemon in the world. Really, I'm kidding, but actually did something in that game. GG's. In the next battle, we see Ursaluna in the lead. I guess that isn't a bad matchup for us, as we do resist the tackles, as Rock does resist normal. The opponent say switch into Florges, put up a protect shield against the Ancient Power, probably thinking, what the heck does this Pokemon run? We're then able to survive the Trailblaze. We're just happy to stay in and just going to completely sack Archen, back in our 2 water types to clean up with a shield advantage. Feraligatr hits the field of play, going to shield up the Trailblaze, and Turbo T is going to look to Shadow Claw this into a range where a Hydro Cannon should get the job done. There should be Hydro Cannon range, and it is. The opponent then send back out Ursaluna. Ursaluna going to be greeted with a super effective Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon rocks them below half health. We see the pivot into Gyarados, baiting out Metagross. Gyarados goes straight for the crunch. Crunch does hit for super effective and does a huge chunk. The opponent can fire off whatever they like, unless they've got Sidekick, which no one's running. Everything will be resisted. Gyarados going to get a massive Dragon Breath farm down. Back out comes Ursaluna. Ursaluna able to win the charge attack priority, but Gyarados more than happy to invest the protect shield. Aqua Tail will be forcing the opponent's final protect shield. Feraligatr re-enters the arena, 1 Shadow Claw off the next Hydro Cannon, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, Archen into Florges. This apparently is an alright lead. We've seen Ancient Power does a decent chunk or Force of Protection. We're actually able to win CMP as well. Ancient Power instantly puts them into the yellow. If the opponent falls in a Moonblast, it's probably Night Sleep type. The opponent go for the Trailblaze bait and then going to fire off the boosted Trailblaze. In this scenario, I anticipate us going for the one shield and attempted Shadow Claw farm down. Do 5 Shadow Claws, knock out Florges. We're really going to hope so. Alligator looks for the farm down, able to get it and leaves absolutely loaded. Out comes Gyarados, the loaded Gator, going to unleash the Ice Beam that hits for neutral. That is quite underwhelming in the Master League, as we haven't quite got the power of some of the heavy hitters here, but the next Ice Beam does force our shield back. We then see the pivot into Gyarados. The opponents stay in, looking for some chip damage. Hopefully they're weak to a water type in the back. Crunch, thankfully, doesn't get the defense drop. Turbo T, then goes straight to the Aqua Tail, looking to remove Gyarados from the field of play. Aqua Tail does exactly that, and out comes Skeledirge. Turbo T farms up, throws the Aqua Tail on the CMP side. Very high risk, high reward stuff. Aqua Tail forces the opponent a final Protect Shield, and that should be check and mate. Alligator comes in, reaches the Hydro Cannon, grinning away. Hydro Cannon gonna be all she wrote, with Turbo T picking up a nice 3-2 with the Archen team. And he did say it's probably the worst Pokemon he's ever run. Don't try this at home. What an incredible showcase, and one of my favourite battlers. I think looking at the battles today, it's easy to see why. Turbo T is phenomenal, and not only that, he doesn't run basic meta teams, he runs some really fun spice. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new, consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. A link to my battle submission form is down below, and as always, huge thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.